Character ascensions are not an uncommon thing within gacha games. Hell, Genshin Impact already has a type of ascension system that involves leveling up your characters. However, I don't think this is all miHoYo has planned for ascensions. What's going on, kings, queens, and majesties? Today we're going to be talking about a 6-star ascension that will more than likely be coming to Genshin Impact's future. Before we talk about the technicalities of a 6-star, let's talk about something I believe will be heavily involved in this process: Delusions. If you don't know what delusions are, I will explain them to you. However, we do need to have a brief discussion about visions before we do so. So, as you may or may not know, to use the power of an element within the world of Teyvat, you need to have access to a vision. Unless you are an elemental being, an archon, or the protagonist. Suck it, World Order. Anyway, visions in the Chinese version are known as Eye of God, which is interesting to think about when you realize visions are gifts bestowed upon mortals who the gods of Celestia recognize. These people are called allogenes. It is also said that they have the chance to ascend to Celestia and attain godhood themselves. And that's all you need to understand about visions for now. Moving on to delusions, in the Chinese version, they're known as Evil Eye. Delusions are powerful treasures that originate from the Fatui. These treasures allow for the use of an element without the need for a vision. It is said that the Tsaritsa grants delusions in person to worthy members of the Fatui. There are not many though. It is referenced that there are only a few Fatui outside of the 11 Harbingers who have delusions. Now moving on from that, it is clearly stated that the Fatui are where the delusions originate from. More specifically, the Tsaritsa herself. So, what connection would they directly have with the 6-star character? Well, let me explain what I'm thinking with the entirety of the 6-star as a concept. First things first, you're probably already thinking that we're gonna have to roll for these 6-star characters. No, I don't believe that will be the case. miHoYo initially had a 5-year plan for Genshin Impact. 5 years is a decent lifespan for a gacha game like Genshin, and I believe they did not have any intention on leaving behind characters and having them become irrelevant by the end of the game's life. Having a character grow in power over time leads to an ease of company resources, seeing that they would be able to reuse assets and not have to make a character completely from scratch, while leading to them continuing to profit off of reruns without them getting stale. You see, a lot of these characters reoccur throughout the story, and a lot of people want/need chances to roll for these characters. But not a lot of people, including free-to-play players, would not be excited to re-roll for an old and outdated character. That, combined with the fact that this can completely spark new interest in older characters, well, it just sounds like a missed opportunity for money, which we all know miHoYo likes. It's with all this in mind I can safely assume miHoYo will introduce 6-star characters, which will involve characters raising from a 5-star to a 6-star, making it so that characters do not fall behind and can continue to do harder, newer content without falling short in terms of damage and survivability.
Alright, but why would they add 6 stars? We already have an ascension that involves us getting characters to a higher level.
Yeah, you're right, little Timmy. As it stands currently in Genshin, each character needs to ascend a total of 6 times to achieve a max level of 90. Level 90. A very strange stopping point if you ask me though. Like, we do all this work to cap our characters at 90, just 10 levels shy of 100? Nah, you see, this is where 6 stars would come into play. 6 stars would allow us to get our characters up to level 100, as well as give us access to new elements, new abilities, and a new burst. This would more specifically come from the involvement of delusions.
But I thought you said delusions came from the Tsaritsa. Why would the Fatui make them for our characters?
Wow, very good, very true, very good points, little Timmy. However, let's not forget that this is a video game, and at the end of the day, miHoYo does not need it to make sense for it to be a gameplay mechanic. But, for those of you that like lore, and like for me to make things make sense, I'll present to you my thoughts and theories as to why a 6-star ascension would be okay with the involvement of delusions. In the Genshin manga, the power of a delusion was confused for the power that caused something called the Black Fire Incident. This Black Fire Incident led to the death of 2 and a lot of people injured. This incident was caused not by a delusion, however. It was caused by the power wielded by the young girl Kali, someone who was a test subject for the Fatui at a very young age. This power, we later learn, comes from Archon residue that was injected into her. You see, Kali wandered into Mondstadt in order to find out more about her affliction, and she does. She finds evidence that seems like it's connected to her own ailment. However, it is after the knight's recalling of what this research actually was that we learn that this research was actually about a delusion which Diluc's father used to drive back Ursa the Drake after its attack on their carriage after some Fatui collusion? This is interesting to think about, considering that the power of a delusion comes directly from an Archon herself. I believe it is through this connection that justifies me saying that the power of a delusion is the condensed power of an Archon's essence put into an object. Continuing with more information that we have, we've seen the use of delusions in the Genshin manga and in the game itself. It is from that we can see delusions grant users abilities to use elements without the need for a vision. However, over half the people we've seen use these delusions have had their bodies strained and damaged, one of them to the point of death. However, there is a person who we have seen use a delusion without feeling any sort of strain on their body, at least from what we've seen. This person is Diluc. Now the difference between Diluc and his father, Master Crepus, the one who died from using a delusion, was that Diluc was gifted a vision. With this, I can draw a conclusion that leads me to believe that delusions have negative effects on the bodies of people who are not allogenes and who cannot use elements naturally via visions. Now I know naturally might seem like a strange word to use here, but let me remind you that visions are gifts from the gods of Celestia, and it is through these gifts that these people have been blessed to use these elements naturally, with the help of their vision of course. So we now know that delusions are made from the power of an Archon versus visions which are gifted via the power of Celestia.
But wait, if somebody has a vision, does that mean that they can't have a delusion?
Actually, little Timmy, I don't think that's the case at all. In fact, I think those who wield visions can actually wield delusions to the best of their abilities, which explains why the 11 Harbingers are so dangerous as they wield both delusions and visions.
But wait a minute, Child gets tired after he uses his delusions.
If you guys haven't picked up on the joke, this is what some of you sound like in the comment section. You make good points, but sometimes I don't know, man.
But answer my question about Child.
Alright, little Timmy, yes, I have an entire theory about this, and I'll leave that for a separate video. So with all this speculation and theorizing, how could we justify seeing this type of advancement in the game? Well, here's my idea. I think we could potentially see some kind of Fatui boss. As like we've seen in the Genshin manga, one of the people directly involved within the Fatui that was testing Archon residue changed his form into that of a monster, which was only defeated after the help of Diluc's delusion. I believe this could be a boss or a raid or a world boss or something like that we can fight once a month, which would reward us with a new kind of item, Archon residue, which will be used in order to craft a new type of ascension material, a delusion itself. Of course, this would also be involved in a quest that would lead for us to get a crafting recipe from the Knights of Favonius themselves. Seeing as they were previously doing research on delusions themselves, they would probably help the traveler and give him the crafting recipe that would allow for us to craft our own delusion. After crafting a delusion with this Archon residue, you will then be able to ascend a character to 6-star, where we will have to level them up from 1 to 100 again. However, the bonuses from these level up will grant each character with a second element, along with a bonus elemental skill and a new burst. Oh, and I think this goes without saying, but of course we're gonna see characters get banging new outfits. I mean, just using Child as an example, that's just, look at his outfit there. I think this will be really cool to see, as it gives people new interest in older characters, and it keeps older characters relevant. This kind of advancement can give MiHoYo cause to up difficulty on a lot of things, and make things harder, because we all know a lot of the endgame content is way too easy. However, seeing how we'll be able to have characters proc their own elemental reactions by using 2 different kinds of elements, and having more skills to play with means a higher DPS output than we already have, would justify them making content harder. It makes me very excited. What do you guys think? Does this seem a little too ambitious? Does it seem like we could potentially see this added to the game? Or do you have any ideas for character delusions? It could be anything, a new skill, a new burst, a new outfit. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. And that's it for me, Kings, Queens, and Majesties. If you liked the video, be sure to leave a like. And if you liked me, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell icon to be notified when I post a new video in the future. And lastly, follow me on Twitter to stay up to date on the latest channel news. Later.